Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. Nighttime Mike's Instant Movie Review. Just saw, You Can Call Me Bill. New pseudo-documentary is what I would call it. It's William Shatner. He's doing an interview. It's a lot of clips from his career, some stills from his childhood. Like I said, it's a pseudo-documentary. I mean, it's kind of a contemplation on life, a contemplation on acting, a contemplation on journey, his career, a little bit of his childhood. I actually happened to see William Shatner do something very similar to this 5 or 6 years ago. Me and my good pal, Bob DeChico, up in Massachusetts, went to some type of, I'd say, a 600 or 700 seat venue. I want to say perhaps in Waltham, Massachusetts, or Webster, one of those W cities. I used to say that the W cities in Massachusetts, places like Wrentham and Waltham and Webster, they all sounded like Southern stepchildren. You know, like Webster, get off your sister Waltham. You know, Wrentham, do the dishes. But in any event, William Shatner would take this show on the road. It was kind of fun because it's kind of a spoken word, and then there would be like a mixed medium, basically a video projection with little clips and highlights and other interesting things where he would tell his anecdotes. So that was 6 or 7 years ago. According to this movie, which by all accounts, the interview takes place in 2021, I believe. He was 90 at that point. So when I saw William Shatner, I guess he was 85, 86, 87. Well, the guy looks tremendous. I didn't realize. I mean, it's shocking, you know. I mean, no offense, but if you ever get so lucky to meet someone in their 90s, oftentimes they're having some type of, memory issue and so forth. Not everyone, of course, I know. But this gentleman, William Shatner's got it all together. Great for him. And so what did I think? I mean, I think if you're a William Shatner fan, this is probably a must-go-to. You've probably already seen it, or you'll be streaming it. I'm actually a pretty marginal William Shatner fan. Just between me and you, I've never sat there and watched a full episode of Star Trek, okay? Not a Trekkie. I'm aware of it. I'm aware of all the beam me up Scotties and the this and the that and all that stuff. I never sat there and watched a full episode of TJ Hooker. I never watched Boston Legal, which I didn't even know he was on until tonight, or if I knew, I forgot. So the point is, I'm not sitting there watching the history of William Shatner, but he is part of the atmosphere, so to speak. He's always doing something of significance. The only Star Trek movie I ever saw in the theater was a reprise screening of Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, mainly because I'm a Ricardo Montalban fan, okay, who played Khan. So I don't go into this theater all hung up that it's Captain Kirk or William Shatner or whatever the fuck. But watching this movie, which has many highlights from that Star Trek series, and at one point, it said something, the lower thirds, which is what they call the writing on the bottom of the screen that gives you the information of the clip that you're watching. The industry term is lower thirds. It says something to the effect of Star Trek Episode 1, I'm sorry, God damn it, Star Trek Season 1, Episode 37, just shocking that there used to be so many episodes of a weekly, 37 episodes of a show on television in 1 year. Now these shows get away with, 6 episodes a season, 8 episodes, goo, we need a strike. But back then they're doing 37 episodes. My God, it's very impressive. Just the workmanship mentality back before people had smartphones and YouTube and all these other things to distract them. They made 37 episodes of periodic television. I also didn't realize that on Star Trek, they had all these, I guess, Captain Kirk had all these identity crises or all these evil twins and so forth. It seems like that was kind of a motif, and I guess That's why the fans adore this gentleman, William Shatner, so much, because his acting chops were kind of put to the test. And then he speaks like this, like that's the whole thing. Shatner goes into the Shatner impersonations. He does have a very rhythmic, the way that I would describe his speech pattern, it does sound like it's almost like a pentameter, like a haiku of sorts, a verbal haiku from this gentleman. There was some controversy with William Shatner, and look, I don't need to drag up the fucking corpses of the unknown or whatever the fuck, because I don't really know the whole story, but there is some type of incident. I believe a person passed away. I believe it was a woman. I believe it was some type of love interest to William Shatner. I don't know much more than that, so I'll refrain from saying anything that will indict me, because I don't want to character assassinate. And at the same time, I don't want to not mention it, because some asshole there in comment land will say, well, gee whiz, Mike, blah, blah, blah. Except, I know, okay, I'm aware of the story. I don't know the details, but obviously he's alive and he's never gone to jail or anything, so we know that. As far as this movie goes, I was going to go see the Godzilla vs. King Kong movie. It had the big Dolby Digital screen. And then I realized, holy God, it's not in 3D. I need to see, if I'm going to go see Godzilla and King Kong fight for 2 hours and sit there, I want it to be in 3D. So for you film fans this weekend who are all excited to see Godzilla and King Kong, as an aside, make sure you're seeing the 3D screening, because unless it says 3D on your app for the particular auditorium you're going to, or if you do the old school method of paying a teenage child for your ticket, then make sure you tell that person you want to see a 3D screening, because they'll fuck you. They don't care. In any regard, the Shatner movie, I was surprised there was 3 other people in the theater, besides myself. And, the movie is good. I mean, but like I said, it's a little bit of a pseudo doc. They don't dig deep into this guy, Shatner. I mean, you could go in so many directions. You could do a study of why of all the people, does this guy have this particular little fabric in our pop culture paradigm? What makes, is it simply because of Captain Kirk and his speech pentameter? I would say perhaps because he's been a good sport about things. I mean, we go back to that Saturday Night Live skit where he's doing the Star Trek convention and yelling at the fans. So he has a sense of humor about himself and his career and his fans, and Star Trek fans. They have a thing that I think I saw clips of this, but him kind of doing a skit at a George Lucas American Film Institute ceremony, where he's kind of making fun of sci-fi in general and the confusion, if there is any, between sci-fi, between Star Wars and Star Trek. So the guy's got a good sense of humor, okay, about his life. A few years ago, there was a documentary that I did a review on Val Kilmer. It was called Val. That one, I think the stakes may have been raised a bit, because Val at that point was suffering, I believe, of throat cancer, and so that movie had a different vibe to it. This one, I think it's just, William Shatner is thanking the audience for supporting his career. By the time this thing comes out, he's past 90 years old. He knows that, we're all going to fucking die. So he's just not an idiot in that regard. But he's articulate enough to express himself and look back on his career. He doesn't really get into his personal life. He does mention some grandchildren and so forth, but he doesn't get into the whole life, it's more of a career retrospective than a life retrospective, I'd say. He does get into his thing where a couple of years ago at age 90, he took one of those Jeff Bezos trips. So as an Amazon Prime subscriber, you're welcome, Mr. Shatner. I hope that my contributions to my subscription to Amazon Prime helped finance you to go into outer space. You're welcome. What else? So that was interesting. And he has kind of an environmental bit at the end. And he says something that makes a lot of sense to me, which is basically, people are basically, we, as a general thing, not every single person, because obviously there are some environmentalists out there who are advocating for our Mother Earth. But basically he's saying the situation with our planet, with our pollution, with our trash, where does the garbage go? I mean, doesn't that sound like a kid's novel? We've got our collective head in the collective sand. We're ignoring the problem and hoping it goes away. And what is the problem, you ask? Well, plastic is everywhere. If you ever saw that movie about the water, I think it was called Dark Water, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, about polluted water. Basically everyone's fucked because the water is so bad now. I mean, people wonder why we get all these cancers and why does grandma and auntie get cancer? Well, because they're drinking shitty water. And it's like, you can't just, oh, well, I'll just drink Aquafina for the rest of my life. Well, you go to some goddamn restaurant, they're cooking the food with the bad water. Point is, we're all fucked. So, yeah. So, I mean, he basically talks about that. He does not really offer any solution that I saw. Not that William Shatner would have any, no offense, but neither do I. But he basically just kind of laments about how it sucks. He kind of ends with this "I want to be a tree" poem. Basically, like, when I'm dead, fucking burn me up, what's it called? And he's got a deal where, like, his body, the ashes of his cremated body will be basically nourishment for a red oak tree, which was kind of interesting, a little interesting there. So this is a movie about a guy, this is a movie about a guy who's lived a good portion of his life in front of the camera. There's a nice moment where he talks about, Star Trek was off the air for 2 years. He did not have any money. He just had a bad divorce. And he's in a field somewhere living out of a truck. And he's watching a 4-inch TV screen, which I guess they had back then. And I believe this is 1967. And he's watching Man Walk on the Moon for the first time. Interesting side note. Did you know, this is according to something I saw on YouTube, that the actual footage of the moon landing is kind of like a shitty version. Like whenever you see the actual footage of the moon landing, that's not like an original copy, or like a good copy of the moon landing. Like whatever the fuck, NASA didn't keep the actual footage. So what we're seeing is like some half-assed version of it. It's like a recording off of a monitor, or some such thing. You can look that up. Don't take my fucking word for it. But it's not like first generation broadcast quality. So that kind of leads into people's hypothesis that the whole thing might have been a production of Stanley Kubrick and so forth. But in any event, so I like the Shatner movie. I mean, I'd probably give it 3 3/4 of a star. Well worth seeing. I'm not a big... See, this is the thing. A lot of times they say, hey, if you're a horror film person, go see this horror film. If you're not, you're not. Or if you like comedies, or if you like Tom Cruise, you'd like this one. But if you don't, you don't. This one, I can honestly say, it's no offense to the gentleman, but I'm not a huge William Shatner fan. Didn't watch TJ fucking Hooker, didn't watch Star Trek, didn't watch Boston Legal, okay, didn't watch, was it Bonanza or Pocahontas or some Western show he was on, but I saw the gentleman live and I saw this movie and I feel like I've gotten entertained, okay, so there you effing fucking go. Anyway, folks, it's Good Friday. I live in an area now. I moved, as you may or may not care. I moved away from most of my extended family several years ago. I'm kind of in this different state. And things like this, like Easter, it's kind of like, that's when you kind of realize, like, look, Christmas and Thanksgiving, you're always going to, maybe not you, but me, always going to find something to do. But some of these, like, second-tier holidays, and no offense to the Catholics and the Easter bunnies, but, Easter, we can say, is kind of a second tier. It's not Christmas. It's not Thanksgiving. It's, second tier. Can we just be honest? But for this, holiday, it's like I really just don't have big plans. Like I don't have any kielbasa to go eat or whatever the fuck I would do, or there's no family or any fucking thing. So it's just like, okay, it's going to be Easter and I'm probably just going to go see a fucking movie. So I might go see on that day, because this is the thing, as I told you, when these movies are out, you really, if you want to see the Godzilla and King Kong on the big screen, you want to see it on the best possible screen. Well, here we have a little monkey wrench, because the Dolby Digital screen and the IMAX screen and the 3D experience are not necessarily all the same viewing. So you kind of have to say, well, what's my priority? Well, my priority is the 3D. Now, there's an option of IMAX 3D. However, the downside of that, Miss Robinson, is the IMAX 3D doesn't have the good chairs. For whatever the fuck reason, the IMAX theaters have the crap, like stiff as a board chairs. So if you want to, you basically are trading the better chair for the IMAX screen, okay? So it's a tough one, because I really do like to recline, but I also want to see the best possible vision of this thing. And also, I'm kind of fucked on a boat anyway, because I'm going to be seeing this movie past, Friday at this point, or if I go tomorrow. But all the assholes on Twitter and YouTube are going to go see the movie. They're going to put their little Facebook posts. Oh, Godzilla versus King Kong. They're all going to fucking write their little fucking reviews. I, at least, do a nice video review where you have the option whether or not to hear me spoil movies and say my piece. I don't just write a fucking paragraph or a meme giving away some plot point, okay? Or what I thought of it. I don't stick my fucking opinion out there. I make you choose if you want to engage in this process or not. That's the type of individual I am. So in any event, I don't know. Because now it's just like, I could go tomorrow and the IMAX 3D is at 4 o'clock. Well, I happen to have a 3 o'clock appointment. It would really be cutting it close for me to do the 3 o'clock appointment and get to the theater at 4, which kind of shoves me back into a 9 o'clock 3D screening, although it's not IMAX, which basically says, okay, so Friday, I'm not going to get the best of all possible worlds. Perhaps I then pivot. Let me do something of activity on Saturday. I don't think I want to bog myself down with this situation on Saturday. I want to enjoy the outdoors, okay? So Sunday, while everyone else is eating their kielbasa and chasing the fucking Easter bunny around the neighborhood, I could be seeing Godzilla and King Kong. You know what I mean? And maybe the theater would have less people because all the good people are fucking celebrating God and so forth. And I'm watching, Godzilla anyway, against King Kong. And maybe that's the day for me to figure this all out. So I'm looking towards a Sunday screening. Just thought I'd share this with you, people, in case you give a flying fuck. But in any event, this movie was fine. Bill Shatner, you can call me Bill. I'll be sure in doing that. There's so many things in pop culture that I'm aware of that I'm not engaged with. Like they had a clip from, what's that goddamn show I never watched, with Penny and the fucking nerds. The Third Rock from the Sun, or whatever the fuck, or the Big Bang Theory. Never really watched it. But there's a moment where the fucking nerdiest guy opens the door, and there's fucking Captain Kirk, and he's wetting his fucking bed about it. I mean, look, I don't know what to say, folks, because there's so many shows that I don't watch, and people get aggravated with me because I miss their little jokes or whatever the fuck. But, I mean, I'm out there living life. I'm painting, I'm writing novels. I don't have time to watch every goddamn program so I can cross-reference every fucking thing. I feel like I've watched my share of television. I've certainly seen more than my share of films in the auditorium. But I can't fucking cross-reference every fucking episode of Felicity or fucking whatever the fuck, or fucking Ally McBeal or whatever. I just can't do it. I didn't watch every season of ER on DVD in 2005. Mike Messier, go to MikeMessier.com, scroll to the bottom. If you're watching this video somewhere, click on the YouTube and subscribe. Goodbye. Thank you.